see me painting. And I sort of quickly explained to her that I don't really do that, and that hopefully that things would be unfolding. And I was discussing with my wife online about how to decorate, and the woman suggested adding paintings. So I asked her if she wanted to come into the museum's permanent collection and put together a show. And she was a little bit hesitant because she thought that maybe she wouldn't do what we wanted her to do. But I made it quite clear that she was just as qualified as anyone else, and probably much more than myself. So we filmed it, and we ended up hanging the show kind of according to what she said goes with each other, salon style, and then with wall text from her and myself about the experience. And then later a video was added that shows her going through the collection. And we also had an opening for her seniors tour group. It was wild. So this is also at Arizona. My first weekend, the curator said, hey, if you want a free dinner, come to this big auction gala thing we're having, free food. I didn't know anyone, so I showed up, and I'm sitting at that table, and I'm kind of chatting with the people, and it was kind of a lot of small talk, and that was exciting as it can be. And I was looking at some of the service staff, and I sort of felt this kinship, and I felt like, wow, that's really kind of where my comfort level lies. So I approached one of the staff members, and I said, hey, let's switch clothes. I'm a total professional. I've been waiting tables for 15 years. I'm a little bit affiliated with the museum. I'll give you my shirt. You give me yours. I'll do your job. I'll do it well. You can have some wine. Just talk to the people. So that's the person. The woman on the right is the person I switched with. It kind of spiraled. It's an interesting project to reference because it kind of spiraled into a really histrionic affair because people started to recognize me. And then the museum photographer was like, it was like paparazzi. I was like ducking under tables practically. No, it made me feel nervous because this is a project it exists maybe in a talk, but that's about it. So this is another project I did. There were a lot of docents at Arizona, and one of the students happened to be a mascot or a character at Disney World. So I decided that I needed my own docent who would take people through the show the way I wanted them to do it. And so she would occasionally be in the gallery and be very aggressive and physical with museum goers. And that whole docent thing is crazy, a thing unto itself, because I watched a lot of the docents work, and they all totally explain the shows in a completely different manner. But mine was nonverbal. So while I was there, the pressure of interacting with people and that I felt like the museum was really wanting this sort of engagement was intense, and I'm a little bit more of an intimate engager. And so I had this thought that I would move the curator's office into the gallery, or move a desk for him, because he's a super social guy, not as awkward as most of us in the art world. And so he could sort of shoulder some of that burden. And when I looked at his office, it was such an interesting way of ordering one's possessions. I decided to move the whole thing into the gallery, and he would continue to work in there and through the duration of the show. So that's him hard at work. And I'm currently sort of trying to figure out how to travel this exhibition along with John and then ultimately sell it. So if anyone feels like they need this kind of thing in their home, please speak with me after. And then one of the final things I did is throughout the course of the exhibition, particularly the last couple weeks when it kind of ramped up, I was dealing with the preparators a lot, and I felt a lot of tension, like, God, they seemed kind of judgmental of what I was doing. Most of them were object makers, and I know a lot of preparators. And so I just said to them, hey, why don't you guys install some of your own work here? And it was kind of simple, and I wrote up this little text like this, but it functioned on actually quite a number of levels to maybe make them a little happier and also divide the space physically. So I think that's the images. I think some of the things popped out at me in some of the writing and some of the reading that I've been doing. The whole notion of contemplative versus active, and like particularly Claire Bishop talks about it. And it's as if they're these really disparate things, and I don't necessarily think that they are. Maybe the order of them sometimes gets inverted, but if someone, you can go into like the Cezanne Gallery and look at Packard Jennings' work, which is a sort of more active-based thing where he had something in a store, and then now you're not looking at it in Target, but you're looking at it in a gallery, but you are not that far from notions of a more active engagement. But I think that there's this, with this work being brought into institutions, there seems to be this kind of watering down of things. Like museums seem to feel this pressure, like, hey, we got to do something that's active, or we got to engage with people, or we can't just have people looking at work. But that seems like such a broad approach. It's like, I guess to me, and I did a project that I didn't mention here, which was I recorded all the museum staff telling me what this program that brought me into the museum was supposed to be about, and everybody just said engagement, basically, using one synonym or another. And so I guess my question is, it's like, what for? I mean, if you just, I guess like we have to, curators and institutions and artists, I cut off? Oh, I saw you going like this, Shelby. Kill him. No, I mean, it's a little bit broad, what I'm saying, but I just feel like, there's kind of been a broadening from my perspective, and we're not there's a lot of dialogue going on, but it's not about actual projects anymore. It's about like, well, we're doing good work, well, we're changing the world, well, how and why, and I don't think that you can just say, well, if you get out into the public, then that's good, or if a museum does something that's not just a discrete object, that's good. I'm sure people would tend to agree on certain levels. But I do think that one other thing that I find a little bit problematic is that now that there is so much dialogue, like we all of a sudden kind of have an audience and we kind of have a context. And I think that can be, we're in kind of a precarious position because we can really fool ourselves into thinking that, hey, people are paying attention to what we're doing finally. But, it just might be ourselves. And I think a lot of this work was, I mean, it's odd for me because my early work didn't have much to do with the art world. And as I become a bigger part of the art world, now I'm making work sort of about the art world. I don't know sometimes that works, sometimes it's problematic. So I think I feel a little scattered, so I'm gonna take my power back from Nato and wrap up there.
Trying to teach the critical literature around social practices, and also to try to think about what that critical literature should be. And that I've been working on this book that Larry invoked on social works, The Infrastructural Politics of Performance. A book that seeks to integrate a variety of... Can people hear me if I'm here, or how much do I need to? Okay. It makes me feel very sort of Bob Barker. And I'm thinking there about what a variety of group-based, time-based, socially oriented experimental art making has to do with the discipline that I most strongly come from, performance studies. I'm also at the moment a chair of a department of theater, dance, and performance studies that's responsible for supporting a curriculum and a production apparatus behind group-based, time-based, very often socially oriented experiments in art making. And so for me, curatorial questions behind what it means to support social practice, which is part of the charge of this panel, are very much wrapped up in my sense of the infrastructures necessary to support performance. Even if the joining of the many genealogies behind experimental performance to the many genealogies behind social practice, they're not always the same. By bringing them together, I'm always interested in how they might sort of mutually revise each other and think about what they have to do with each other. So in what follows, I'm going to share a really basic framework of some of the ideas that I've been working with, again, around what it means to support social practice. And for me, the idea of support in supporting social practice is one of the crucial conceptual issues, precisely because it seems to me that those angles